Hi everyone, once again, this is Tim N2LCJ. And I, I didn't intend on making this video right now, um, but as it turns out, I had to end up redoing the fan modification that I did in my Kenwood TS940. And I'll explain. If you want to know a little bit more about why you want to do this modification or how this helps the power supply, how it helps the cooling, watch my other video on the TS930S first, and then come back to this video for a little education on the TS940. Now, what happened here, in this case, we're going to use a 24 volt fan. One of these jobs right here. It's a very slim fan, and I will post the information regarding this fan in the comments section on the video. So why do we have to replace it? Well, I was reading on QRZ about some people that have rigged up auxiliary 24 volt fans to their TS940. Now the TS940 main rail is 28.5 volts. And he said that a fan would easily be able to handle 28.5 volts on a 24 volt fan. No, it doesn't. The fan that I've put in this radio, and I'll get into how I mounted it in a little bit, lasted about a week, maybe 10 hours of operating time before the sleeve bearing inside of it started screaming, going rah, 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 like an old can motor fan when I powered it up. And I thought, oh God, okay, let's do this the right way. So what I've done is, with a little experimentation, I need to put in dropping resistors to bring the voltage back down to 24 volts to operate the fan. So I'm going to show you how I did that first. And then I'll get into the connections inside the radio. But I have a test rig hooked up here with a pair of 100 ohm, I believe these are 2 amp resistors in series. Now, a 1 amp resistor should be able to handle it. I like to give it a little headroom and say 2 amps, but since, you know what, since I had them here, why not do it this way? So once again, these are two 100 ohm 2 amp resistors, and this keeps it nice and cool. So I'm going to have to end up replacing the fan with a new fan that I've got right here. Fortunately, these are sold in pairs. It was like $8.99 on Amazon or something like that. But as you can see by the voltmeter, as I said, I've got everything hooked up, and the fan here will turn on the power to the radio, and you'll see what 200 to 100 ohm resistors do to the main 28.5 volt power line. Now that's right about where I want it to be, so that's a good thing. It'll flat top off at exactly 24 volts. Now before I mount them, I plan to just let it run for a little bit and make sure that nothing's getting hot, but I have a feeling this is going to work perfectly. And then we're at 23.9 volts. Now watch what happens after I power it off. See how the fan is drawing down the voltage coming from the transformer, and this is reason number 2 why we're doing this, to bleed off the voltage rather than allowing a voltage spike to happen when we turn off the power to the radio. So let's get into a little bit of mounting. Now this is the cage for the back of the radio, and this is, let me unclip all this stuff here. Now what I've done is disconnected the old fan and unplugged it. And it's actually nice to work with this because, let's unplug this for safety, this entire final section right here lifts up and tilts out once you get the screws undone, and this allows you to feed this wire underneath. Now as far as mounting the fan, I have this fan just a little bit of two-sided tape on the inside here. And you take this plate and you reverse it. And what this does, it allows the screws that were used to hold the fan in place in the other position to be accessed through these vent holes. Now, you won't get all of them. You'll get 3 out of the 4. But this is a nice tight fit, and it will work quite well. So, now let's get into the board, and I'll show you where the taps have to come from, because this is different than the TS930. As you may recall, in the TS930, we had taps on the top of the transformer. Not the case. In this case, you have to go right to the AVR board. Let me get something to point with. Okay. See how you've got your positive and negative right here. These are your 28 volt lines. And what I did is I just slid the wires inside the connector. There is a hole that is on the tab that comes out of the AVR board. I slid the wire in there and then slid the connector and made sure it locked down in place right there. So we've got that like that. And beyond that, there's not much else to doing the mod, but these Chinese fans that you buy for $10 a pair can't handle 28.5 volts when they're only rated to 24, as I found out. So that's pretty much it. Once you have that done. Now, I didn't touch the fan that's inside the final case because this fan seemed fine. I lubricated it, it worked, and honestly, it's a bear to get in there, and I'd rather not do it. So this is how we have it mounted. This will mount cleanly up over the case, and I am going to put the wiring in and get everything installed properly and safely, and run the radio like that, and everything will be good. So this is, once again, Tim, N2LCJ. We'll see you on the air.